Hey youth, happy quarantine Sunday number 2. Looks like we're probably going to have 2 or 3 more weeks of this, so hopefully your mandated family time is all doing good. You're being good, productive members of your family. I am happy to report that Jenny is not bald. However, you might want to invest in hair dye if you got a little cash laying around. So anyway, today's lesson, we'll just jump right in here, comes from Luke chapter 11, starting in verse 33 and going through the end of the chapter. So I'll wait while you read that. Are you done? Oh, you were supposed to pause it. Okay, all right. Pause it and read it, and then we'll come back. Okay, now are you done? All right, great. So Jesus is speaking to a crowd of people, giving them a lesson in luminescence engineering, or the study of light and how it travels. So starting in verse 33, Jesus says, "No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden, or under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, so that those who come in may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eyes are healthy, your whole body also is full of light. But when they are unhealthy, your body it also is full of darkness. See to it then that the light within you is not darkness. Therefore, if your whole body is full of light and no part of it dark, it will be just as full of light as when a lamp shines its light on you." Obviously, this isn't really a lesson about lighting, but about good versus evil, right? This is man's never-ending struggle. From the time we're toddlers until our graves, we're obsessed with it. Right versus wrong, cops versus robbers, superhero versus villain, light versus dark. But it all stems from one thing: righteousness versus sin. That's our daily struggle as humans, not just in our actions and our words, but in our thoughts also. So especially during this quarantine, with increased time at home and being bored, and having all of this access to electronics, sin has a way of creeping into our lives. So we must be on guard against temptation. See the light. Be the light. The light is Jesus. Anyway, after he finishes speaking, a Pharisee invites him to dinner, so Jesus goes and sits down without washing his hands. They must not have been in the middle of a pandemic, I'm guessing. But the Pharisee notices this, though, and we're surprised because they're very ritualistic. They're all about ceremony. They wash when they're supposed to, and tithing, and sitting in the best seats at church, and greeting each other with mad props when they're down in the marketplace and everything. But none of these things are necessarily bad. But when you do them thinking that that's what's going to give you righteousness, that that's what's going to be your ticket to heaven, then it's wrong. So Jesus lays into them about these things in verse 39 through 44. Let's just look at what he says in verse 40 here. He says, "You foolish people, did not the one who made the outside make the inside also?" You see, it's not just about how you act, or whether you go to church, or whether you give to the poor, or how you talk, or any other action that you take. It's about your heart, and whether it has been washed clean by the blood of Jesus. Because that's where we get our righteousness from, is from Jesus. So when your heart is clean, then outwardly your actions become clean. And they're going to follow that, and that's how you be the light. Then in verse 45, after he's laid into the Pharisees here, one of the experts in the law answers him and says, "Teacher, when you say these things, you insult us also." And so Jesus tells him he's just as guilty, loading the people down with all kinds of rules and laws to follow, again trying to make them behave like good people instead of actually being good people out of their hearts. So Jesus tells them they're responsible for the blood of the prophets from Abel to Zechariah. Do you realize what that is? That's the entire Old Testament that they're responsible for. And he's laying it square on their shoulders. Why? Because they were focused on the wrong thing. He tells them in verse 52, "Woe to you, experts in the law, because you have taken away the key to knowledge. You yourselves have not entered, and you have hindered those who were entering." What is the key to knowledge? It's right here. It's God's holy word. And what's the main point in the Bible? Jesus. The entire thing from beginning to end points to him. It's all about him. He's the sacrificial lamb that came to save the world. It's easy for us to read this and think, man, he really laid into those guys, didn't he? Here's my challenge to you today. Take 10 minutes in a quiet place by yourself. I know you have the time. And imagine that Jesus is sitting there with you for one meal, one-on-one. What would he say to you? I know for me, he would have a lot of woes, just like he did for this Pharisee and for this expert in the law. And so, during that time, ask for forgiveness for those sins. Turn away from them. Allow Jesus to fill your heart. And then go out and be the light. Thanks. We'll see you next week.